second week of April, we're going to have 70, 80, 90-degree days. It's happened every year for the past, I look back to like 2009, the second half of April, it gets that warm. And extending it, if, you know, I know the extension will be to April 15th, but then can they get another 2-week extension on that? I mean, honestly, I feel like if it's over 50 degrees, these things shouldn't be running, because I need to be out in the yard so my hedges don't overgrow, my neighbors don't complain. You know, the children are outside. So my point is that we're all being exposed to these toxins. It is more dangerous than the oil furnaces. That's what the research shows. The particulates, really problematic, serious cancer-causing chemicals. And we're exposing our children to this. They're developing these, you know, getting mutations early in their life that they're going to carry through, and for additional mutations to occur, they're being exposed to this very young age. The state law doesn't go far enough, in my opinion, as someone who understands the basis of cancer.
Well, 2 questions I have. Well, one thing. I also will give you the article I read tonight about formaldehyde and cancer in your home.
Which is why I don't buy furniture with foam in it as much as I can. I don't buy rugs that contain the formaldehyde. I understand that, and
read the article. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the building process and putting up a house, and more so in older homes. But setting that aside, your more important question and what I'm concerned about is the unit that you see spewing out this. Can you just let me know who it is so we can keep an eye on it and watch it?
It's not breaching the opacity issues. I'm not, so the guidelines say a certain opacity is when you can complain. I'm saying that the low level of smoke that is just produced by these machines, it's how they work. They're constantly burning a little bit of wood, there's constantly a little bit of smoke coming out of it. That's my concern.
But you have one in particular that is affecting you?
The one that, well, I live in Tilson, so there's 3 that my dog walks me past regularly.
And they're all seem to be a problem to you?
She's saying
how do you describe a problem to me? I'm saying it is releasing toxic chemicals. It's a problem to all of us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and leave the option of written comments till next Wednesday.
I'll second.
I would also like to request that if people have comments that they made and that they are in writing, that they submit them in writing so that we can have a chance to read them over.
Councilman Gallagher, absent. Councilwoman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes?
Supervisor?
Yes.
What are they voting on? What are they voting on?
Goldie wasn't in here.
You got a little too relentless for me to step out.
Well, we voted without you.
That's fine.
Okay. Public hearing number 3. Town of Rosendale, notice of public hearing. Please take notice that a public hearing on a proposed increase of water and sewer rates will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Rosendale on April 3rd, 2013 at 8 p.m. immediately following the public hearing for the repeal of Chapter 43 heating appliances at the Rosendale Community Center, 1055 Route 32, Rosendale, Ulster County, New York, to hear all interested persons. Please take notice that a copy of said proposal rates increases are available for review at Town Hall, 424 Main Street, Rosendale, New York, during normal business hours. By order of the Rosendale Town Board dated March 13, 2013, Joan S. Jordan, Town Clerk.
Anyone have any public comments on this?
we have to do 15 minutes?
Let's move on with the
Actually,
agenda.
we don't. Well,
Let's
that's
move on
been,
with the agenda. We can close
that's
it.
been changed. That's not for me. Do we have any public comments on the raise in sewer and water rates? Any questions for Terry? I make a motion to close the public hearing.
If they want to keep it open, I'm going to second it.
Huh?
Nobody's going to second it, they like these public hearings.
Sit down, Terry.
We have a second to it, yeah?
We're just not doing a second to sweat, Terry. Now, come on, man, do it second.
Truck's already running.
You get the remote started? I'll second.
It's after 10.
You can go home.
I'm sure.
I would miss the best part if I left.
Councilman Gallagher,
Yes.
Councilwoman Green,
Yes.
Councilman Hassett,
Yes.
Councilman Ryan,
Yes.
Supervisor.
Yes. Okay, we're going to switch things around to give gentleman that's waiting here a little reprieve. He's been here all night. The number 6, Central Hudson Fortis, we've had an extension from the public comments. Public Service Commission has given an extension. What is the new deadline? May 31st. And Vanna, do you want to speak a little bit about this?
Well, Rosendale, this was the first.
Gentlemen, could you keep it down, please?
The first town to pass a resolution in opposition to the proposed Fortis acquisition of Central Hudson. A few days later, the Ulster County Legislature passed a resolution, and since then, New Paltz and Woodstock, and many other towns throughout the county are considering one, and the details of which I don't want to, at this late hour, go into, but if anybody wants to look at the reasons, we have a flyer here that goes into the economic issues, the outsourcing of jobs, the environmental history of Fortis, and basically, a very, very few high-level executives and shareholders at Central Hudson stand to make a great deal of money, but ultimately, the ratepayers in the Central Hudson service area are going to pay for that. Inevitably, our costs are going to go up. Electric costs are a major part of municipal budgets, residential budgets, business budgets. And to have a company with a really unfortunate history steering us back to more fossil fuel consumption, and there will be fossil fuel consumption until we put enough infrastructure in place to transition to a green energy economy, which is a national and state priority in face of climate change. So I think there was widespread agreement that there are many, many problems related to this proposed acquisition. Ultimately, we think we can create a solution that'll work much better. We'll still get our electricity from Central Hudson, but so we were able to get an extension for 38 days till May 1st, but in order to actually have a lot of hundreds of people at this point have either signed petitions or sent in testimony, but in order to have a really effective outcome, we would like to build a stronger legal case. Some of us went up and met with the Public Service Commission, and they said, get it in the record and document it. And we can do that as individuals and municipalities and experts, but you also have to do it within the context of utility law. And so at this point, I'd like to introduce Dan, Duffy.
Right, it's like Duffy with a list.
Everybody probably thinks it's Duffy when they first hear it.
That's fine, when they send me bills, I can ignore them.
And he has worked in the Orange and Rockland service area with municipalities who banded together in rate cases to keep the rates down and been very successful. And we think that a similar consortium of municipalities in the central Hudson service area could get us a much better outcome. But I'm not experienced in that, so I'll ask Dan to.
You know what, just to help me understand better, is this having to do with the sale of Central Hudson to Fortis, or is it?
Yes. That's
But
exactly what it has, that's exactly what it's doing. Fortis is a Canadian-based company in, the headquarters are in Newfoundland, and they own a number of operating utilities. They claim that they're the largest distribution utility in Canada. They own properties in Belize, they own properties in British Columbia, and they own some properties even in New York State, some hydro facilities in upstate New York. What they don't bring to the table, and which has happened in every other merger proceeding, and I've been involved in every single one since the first one when National Grid, based in the UK, came in and acquired Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation in 2001. By 2004, 2005, the problems began because National Grid was not interested in keeping up the service, the investment in the service territory. I had a client, a pregnant woman, who could not get electric service. I had to call the Public Service Commission. I spoke with one of the attorneys, and I said to him, do you want to see this reported in tomorrow's newspaper that National Grid is refusing to provide electric service to a pregnant woman? And he said, you wouldn't. And I said, try me. She got electric service the next day. Iberdrola came in, a Spanish-based company, took over Energy East. Energy East owns New York State Electric and Gas, RG&E. They promised they wouldn't increase the rates. Within several months, they came in and filed for rate increases. The Public Service Commission at least was able to throw them out and have them come back at another later date for further rate increases. Iberdrola also promised to develop wind power. They have not done, to my knowledge, everything they promised to do. Once a foreign entity comes in and takes over your local utility, two things happen. You lose complete control, and the Public Service Commission loses a lot of control. In this case, at least National Grid could make the argument that they are a big, huge international company, rate management, best business practices. Iberdrola made the same pitch. This is a group of 24 individuals in Newfoundland who are just financial engineers. They bring no operating experience, they bring no management experience, but they know how to make money through financial engineering. And in the end of the day, that means that you're going to be paying higher rates. They have made a concession. After they said that they would not be giving any ratepayer benefits, which is totally inconsistent with prior Public Service Commission precedent, they said, okay, we're going to give you $10 million, and we're going to have a $500,000 fund for low-income people. This is a multi-billion-dollar transaction. You will be getting a one-time couple of dollar benefit on your electric bill, and then you're going to be saddled with these guys forever. This is not like a rate case where they come back and they win some, they lose some. This is a forever transaction. This is going to happen. And so if it doesn't make sense, and I certainly don't think it makes sense, it's not in the public interest, which is the legal standard. So what we propose to do is put together as many people and municipalities as possible and make a filing with the Public Service Commission that will definitely explain to them the precedent that they should be aware of, why this case should not be decided in an approval mode. And in fact, we haven't even been able to find if there's an evidentiary hearing supporting this, because what happened was the company filed their testimony in support, the two companies, and then the staff of the Public Service Commission filed testimony, and then a couple of other interveners filed testimony. They all got together eventually in a room, and they came out with a settlement. The settlement is not in the public interest. The unions are opposed to the settlement. First time in any merger in New York State that I am aware of, and I've been doing this since 1976, the unions were not on board. Now that says something to me, and it should send up a really big red flag when your unions are not behind a merger. Because normally, the unions are very, very skillful in extracting concessions from the merging companies to protect their jobs, of course. And we need the unions because we need to have people that know what they're doing in terms of putting up the wires and maintaining the gas service, et cetera, et cetera. So the unions are opposed to it. The Public Utility Law Project is opposed to this. And they didn't do as good a job as they'd like because they got funded, defunded, unfunded, and so they weren't very helpful in getting their full case across. And the retail access people, that, you know, the shopping, electric shopping, and they're opposed to it. Also unprecedented. So there are three major parties that are opposed to this. And so we think that there's an opportunity for the commission to take a hard look at this and send these guys packing and come up with a better solution. They have made no commitments to renewables. They've made no commitments to a sustainable future. Alternative energy is not being discussed. All they're relying on, and this is a good thing to a certain extent, they're relying on expanding natural gas. And they're good at that. Most of their customers are natural gas customers up in Canada. So what we're proposing to do is put together a municipal consortium, get the counties involved, make a filing, and try to tie this thing up so that eventually they walk away. And that's the pitch.
What are the other options here? Is there other companies that want to purchase Central Hudson?
Well, I would think the natural would be Con Edison. Because Con Edison owns Orange and Rockland. That was a merger that they did in 1999. And Orange and Rockland is contiguous to Central Hudson. Now we're talking real synergies because, you know, here they're not proposing to get rid of the management. The management's going to get nice big paychecks. They're going to stay on board. They're getting like $14 million. This is a deal that's not, what's not to like if you're a senior executive at Central Hudson. I don't begrudge it. It's a capital system. But what I do think is that we, as communities in the Central Hudson area, need to tell the commission that this is not in the public interest, explain to them why it's not, and then get them to go back. They don't even have a requirement for a recommended decision yet. There were two administrative law judges. They have not issued a recommended decision, which means we don't know what their rationale is and what they're going to be recommending to the commission. So we want to ask for a recommended decision so that we can then see, okay, what's the logic behind this? Then we can explain to the commission what we don't agree with in briefs to the commission and force the commission to get this thing out of the back room, get it into the air, let everybody take a look at it. Central Hudson has been very, very good with their PR. They've got people, they even were able to hoodwink Mr. Hine, the county executive of Ulster County. I think he's starting to see that he got hoodwinked. We're going to meet with him on Monday and try to see if we can get him a little bit, you know, clearer on some of the facts. So that's the pitch. We want you guys to come in. We're going to figure out that there's going to be a little, I know this is the tough part. There is going to be a little money involved because I don't work for free. But it would be very limited. I've done this in the past where we put a budget together and we say, okay, here's your maximum exposure. And we're not talking a lot of money. We're talking in a couple of $1,000 area, okay, for this project. For each municipality, the more we get, the less exposure that you have. But I think you really deserve to get involved in this. There is no Consumer Protection Board anymore. That's gone. So there's nobody out there that's representing your constituents' interests. There's no, what was it used to be called? CUB, Citizens Utility Board. That's not there. What's there? There are two men, I know both of them, good guys, that are now in the Utility Intervention Unit of the Department of State. The Department of State knows nothing about utility intervention. Fortunately, my friends Saul Rigberg and Greg Cola do know about it. But that's two men for the entire state, for every single utility that comes in for a rate increase, an application, a merger, you name it. They can't possibly do the job. So my pitch is municipalities got to get together. They got to put together a consortium, as Councilwoman Green said, and duke it out. So that's what we're trying to get you guys to think about, joining the municipal consortium that we're going to be putting together.
So I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
Have you approached any other towns or?
We're in the process of doing that, yes, and we're getting some good feedback that they want to participate.
Are you planning on approaching every town in the central Hudson?
That would be ideal, but what we're going to concentrate first on is the big dogs, the cities. We want to get the cities involved, and then the bigger towns.
We're the little dog, though.
Well, I understand. I understand that, but you have some leaders here in this room, okay? You have your Councilwoman Green, you have Metzger over here, and you have your other colleague, and so and Susan Gillespie, and so this is the focus. It's like the women from Rosendale that have lit the fire here, and don't ever underestimate the women from Rosendale. And so that's how we're going to get this thing started.
So, Jean, just let me say also that in order to get the first phase, to get the extension, we developed a database of every town and county in the central Hudson service area, from the village to the town, to the cities, to the counties, and we've also met with state representatives, the Public Service Commission. When we meet with County Executive Hine on Monday, we will be talking about the municipal consortium, and I think that the most appropriate place for it to start would be at the county level. But we wanted to at least, since Rosendale did take some leadership, we wanted to just have you understand it before you read it in the paper. Well, I guess somebody's going to read it in the paper now. But
so the next step would be, once you get people on board, what action?
Well, what the next thing we're probably going to be doing is filing a motion to seek an evidentiary hearing, and another evidentiary hearing, since they even haven't had one. And in my own mind, I'm not sure how the commission is going to deal with this, because typically they have to take evidence into the record. And a resolution, by the way, is not evidence. Okay? It gets recognized, but it has no factual evidentiary value. So we have to get evidence into the record. And we're also going to make a motion to have the recommended, to have a recommended decision written by the judges, which is typical in many, many large controversial cases. This case has only suddenly really become controversial with the activities here that were initiated with Assemblyman Cahill and Senator Gibson's comments. Very, very well thought out. There's some potential issues, and I haven't looked at this myself, but the issue of NAFTA has been raised, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which means that maybe the Public Service Commission, if Fortis takes over, and they don't like the way their investment is going because they're not getting the level of rates that they desire, may be able to pull out NAFTA and say, hey, Public Service Commission, we trump you. You have to give us these rates, because NAFTA says we have to make money on our investment. So I'm not sure that's a strong case yet, but that's something else that we're going to be taking a hard look at to see if we can't convince the Commission that this is a real bad deal for all involved, except for Fortis and the senior executives of Central Hudson. And I don't think that meets the public interest standard for an essential utility infrastructure serving electric and gas.
Another question I have is, you have a limited time. Do you feel you have the time that you need to get any action taken?
I would not be here if I didn't think I had the time. I don't take something on unless I know I can do a good job with it, and we will do a good job with it.
You picked a bad day to come here. I woke up this morning, turned on the news. Malcolm Smith and a Republican arrested, FBI, 6 o'clock in the morning. Then we have North Korea and South Korea, and then that beautiful sight of those coach at Rutgers University abusing those children. I'm a little bit pessimistic on what's fact and what's fiction, but you do give a good speech.
Well, I am totally delighted that I have seen democracy at work again here, exactly 1 hour and 7 minutes from my house in Warwick. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your time.
Jean, if I could also just make one other comment. The Public Service Commission on their own, once they realized how much interest and reconsideration was going on in the Central Hudson service area, scheduled 2 additional public hearings. We didn't even ask for that. They want to hear from us. I think we've raised some really important concerns, and not just we, but, certainly the labor people.
So the interesting situation for us is, if the board chooses to get on board with this, we have, our meetings are only, twice a month usually, so I would just like to ask that we get as much feedback from you within the next week as where you're at.
Yeah, we've done this in connection with Orange and Rockland. The last two rate cases, we put together, I'm going to say about 12.5 different municipalities from cities to towns and villages. And what we did was we came up with a budget, and then we whacked it up based upon the size. And there's different ways of allocating the dollars, but recognizing that municipalities have their own decision times, what we did was we allowed some of the early adopters to exhaust their cap. As we added more, we were able to continue the fight. And the one thing that we got out of the Orange and Rockland case, and again, I want to stress it's a rate case, not a merger. So rate cases, you can come back. But over time, we were able to get a new tariff that was passed by the Commission to allow municipalities, and Councilman, this will go specifically to your speech, to buy the streetlights. When they buy the streetlights, their distribution charges, not the commodity or all the other little miscellaneous taxes that you see on a bill, is going to come down 75%. Now, that sounds like a terrific story, too good to be true. Well, it is a little too good to be true, because you have to now take over the maintenance of the streetlights. So now it's your problem, and when the streetlight is out, you're going to get the call, because you gave your cell phone out, Councilman, and you're going to get the call at night, and you're going to have to, in addition to chasing smoke, now you got to go chase lights.
I've already done that, so that's not a big deal to me.
But the analysis is 50% off the savings. So I'm currently negotiating on behalf of Clarkstown and Ramapo, because those are the two biggest towns, and they agreed to be the first olives out of the bottle. So we're trying to set some precedent in terms of what the actual cost is going to be, because Orange and Rockland has said, we want the moon, and we say we're going to take these mercury vapor lights off your hands, and you're going to pay us to do it. So that's it's sort of like a little this far apart at this point. But that's a real benefit, because it's real savings to the town, and this is going to accrue year after year. And then you get to relamp with LEDs. That's going to create even more savings, because if you go buy the LED from, for example, Orange and Rockland, you'll pay $1,000. You can buy them for $300. So just figure out the savings.
Just watch it now, you're going overboard, because you know what they say, if it sounds too good to be
Right.
true, it probably is.
More to come.
So,
If you can just take my card before you leave tonight, so you can give me anything.
Sure.
Next week. Also, are we only looking for municipality support?
No, NGOs,
What about the
rich
union?
people.
What about the union?
Union.
Because they're.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you say rich people?
Rich people, we're looking for rich people.
This guy right over
We
here.
don't know any
he's-
rich people.
Yeah.
We met with Hudson Valley Area Labor Federation and IBEW. We actually already have some people that are donating, and we're in conversation. I don't want, I'll tell
Okay,
people
good.
offline.
Yep.
With some very major NGOs. Because of the environmental impacts, there are some large environmental organizations that want to participate, and some wealthy people that care enough about this that they want to have a way to donate to it. But the municipal consortium should be municipally led, and the NGOs and businesses and anyone else who wants to help support it should be in the support role. It really should be a municipally led consortium. The other thing I want to mention is that, and anyone who wants to, from our board or from anywhere else, we've scheduled a meeting next week with the Secretary of Energy, the Governor's Secretary of Energy, because it's really important. This is such an important precedent that the governor has to know why we're concerned, and whether he's going to read about it from the coverage in the local papers. I think it's just really important that we go directly there. So if anybody's interested, I can give you the details, but we have that.
So what is your goal as far as the number of municipalities or entities that are involved?
Well, I think there are over 100 in the service
But do
area.
you need to get that many on board before you start doing what you need?
No,
to do?
no,
How many would
because
you like to see on board before
We
you
can't wait for that. We have to
Yeah.
move now.
Okay.
And we have a limited window of opportunity because of the extension of the comment period.
Right.
And so I think that's going to create potentially more delay. And so, because if, the way the commission works, they have one meeting a month, and they call it a session. And so, if the comment period ends on May 1st, it's unlikely it will even get on the June session. Now, the companies were hoping that they were going to get it on the April session, but because the ladies from Rosendale got involved, they blew that out, and it probably blew out May, and it may not even happen in June. So that's going to give a lot of time for people to get organized and to have their voices heard on this terribly ill-advised merger.
If we were to join onto the consortium, at this point, what would the buy-in be, and how would we limit our exposure moving forward?
Well, what I've done in the past is we come up with a budget, and we're talking something in the neighborhood of about $25,000 for my services, and you would be limited to a certain amount based upon the number